All right. So you were at Marion, you go back to Marion for quite a while. You were there for what, probably eight years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you did everything at the school. I mean, you worked at admissions, you were a tennis coach, you were a basketball coach, you were a recruiter, and
coached first base in a softball game. I also was a mascot. I did hockey stats, was a hockey goal judge. I mean, yeah, there were, go ahead.
Did you guys have a hockey team?
We did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I have a picture the day that I left. I wrote on a whiteboard everything I had done between being a 4-year undergrad and then 8 years working there. And there's 30 different things written down, like mascot, hockey goal judge, soccer announcer, baseball announcer, all the stuff.
So you do all of that. And then the job that you desire comes available. And I mean, this is at this point, this is your dream. I mean, this is probably
this is coaching the Badgers.
Yes. The coach of Marion or the coach of the Badgers. And you are in position. And we talked a lot through that process. I remember, Marcus, and it doesn't go your way. And so what were your emotions coming out of that? And how did that change, your perspective on your career moving forward?
Yeah, well, you're right. Like I said, that was my coaching the Badgers moment, right? Like this is, in my mind, it's like I'm staying here forever, kind of like Coach Boyle did for 30 years. And yeah, I remember when it opened and we were out end of the year, kind of just having some beers and having some appetizers at a bar, and classic Coach Boyle fashion, I'm retiring. And, me and Grant had been there, had played underneath him, was older than I was, and had been a coach as well too. So Grant and I have known each other for forever. And we both, I remember Grant, like your eyes just kind of pop out like the cartoon thing. And so you go through that process, right? Putting everything together, going through the phone interview. I did 3 days, actually, was the only candidate out of the 6 on campus that had to do 3 days of interviews because we had the classic April Wisconsin snowstorm that shifted things around. I was supposed to be the last candidate, ended up being a middle candidate, had to do over 3 days because there were different schedules involved that people were missing. And honestly, for a guy that probably didn't have a lot of confidence in what he was doing, because I think in coaching, a lot of coaches can relate, right? There's some that are like uberly confident. They think they have every single answer, but they're probably missing some things in their blind spots. And then you have the other coach who is like, kind of fake it till you make it, but is super scared. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I think I'm doing this right. Kind of that imposter syndrome, which I think there's probably more out there than anything. And going through the interview process over those 3 days, I was like, just so confident because I felt like, again, playing there, like you mentioned, working there, seeing things go up. And we didn't finish as high as we did after those first 4 years when I got there. But again, like having NCAA tournament experience, being heavily involved in recruiting and knowing specifically everything that needed to be fixed in that program. Like there were some things culture-wise, like there were guys that just need to be told like, hey, we got to, kind of straighten up here, or we got to go a different direction, and just bringing guys together more. And so when you get that news of you're second place, you're the runner-up, it's kind of like, what do you do? Honestly, we had a registration for the following year for students. So those kids that are soon to be freshmen coming into campus, the decision was supposed to be made the Friday before. I make a call to the AD. It's like 4:30 because he said we'd hear by the end of the week. Voicemail. And when it gets to 5 o'clock and you get a voicemail and you don't get that call back when you said you're supposed to, you're kind of like, yep, I don't think I'm the one. And so the following day, our president at the time had basically told me, you didn't get the job. And Mark Miller, Wisconsin Yearbook, had already tweeted it out that it was out there. And I'll never forget it. Like the only day in my life where life just, you were going, but there was nothing that you could focus on, right? And so everyone's like, oh, you should stay here. You should help out. You should be involved. Like, new head coach is going to need a lot of help and all that stuff. And in that moment, I had told everybody in the process, like, if I don't get the job, I'm gone. Like, this is kind of the end goal here. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But like, I'm gone. And then enough people had kind of got to me like, no, stay around. It'll be a good thing. It'll be a good thing. It'll be a good thing. And, you kind of sniff around to a few other openings. And it's like, well, my family and I weren't moving. I could go down a rabbit hole on the different family things we had with, a niece that I was kind of helping my sister-in-law raise in some ways, being a father figure because she didn't have a father. And my mother-in-law had cancer and she had passed and she had been with us and she stayed with us for 4 years. And there's just a lot of things that like people on the outside didn't really know. Like this was kind of my shot, like to stay in full time because everything around the area had kind of opened up and closed in the last few years. And so it was like, at that point, you're just like, well, what do I do? So I'm like, all right, I'll just stay because I have nothing else. And honestly, the goal was like, I'm going to be all in here. I'm going to stay. Like, let's build this, right? And then there was just some things over the summer that I just, I'll never forget it. It was a conversation I had with a former player. I was driving down Johnson Street, which is kind of the main drive in Fond du Lac. And he had asked me, how are things going? How are things going? I told him, good, things are blah, blah, blah. And he just told me, he's like, you don't sound like yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm fine. And he's like, no, you don't sound right. And I'll never forget that conversation. And that was kind of the first time that I was really like, am I doing this or am I just putting this whole thing on? And, timing wise of me leaving, I'll be honest with you, it was not great, but it was in my mind that I knew that it had to be a separation for everybody involved. It was the best because it wasn't good for me staying there. It wouldn't have been good for the program. Yeah. And so, there happens to be an opening summer baseball team that I worked with the Timber Rattlers in college. Well, a team they owned in Fond du Lac, we had actually hosted players. Summer baseball team where these Division I kids go to get scouted had an opening. And obviously my management or sport management degree was there to be used. It was a natural transition because I knew the people there. I knew the program. And yeah, leaving in October, 4 days before season starts, obviously wasn't good. But again, I felt like I'm making the best decision for everybody involved, even though everybody looking at that situation on the outside is probably like, I don't know if that guy should have left then. That's kind of like leaving somebody high and dry. And, it's just one of those things. But I would say probably the toughest thing that came out of that was I held to the utmost respect of not reaching out or not talking to any of those players. And I had players during that season text me. I'm in town, right? Like, I'm not coaching. Like, text me about things. And I didn't text back. And if I did, I was like, you got to talk with your coach. I wanted to give nothing of I know, which was tough, right? You recruited some of these guys, one of them happened to be a player that his teammate or his uncle, was my teammate, my roommate in college. And, you've known this kid since he was in grade school and you're literally just like halting the relationship because you don't want to provide any bad juju or mismessaging of the program you're not involved with. So that was probably the toughest thing where it's like, I don't feel like I'm doing right here, but I know that this is how this is supposed to be, right? Like, here's a relationship. And I think those relationships are fine now with those players. But, at the time it was kind of like, well, this guy's just leaving us, right? Like, he told us to stay here and now he's not talking to us. But it's like, well, I'm just trying to do the right thing from a coaching standpoint.